The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast, connecting Virginians to their government. We're so pleased to have Senator Barbara Favola from the 31st District with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Woody. It's a pleasure to be here.
I understand there's some good news from your district in terms of furthering the economy.
Yes, we've had some employers who are headquartered in Arlington deciding to expand their operations, and we're delighted over that. O-Power is going to expand its workforce. Arlington offers that wonderful mix of a very educated workforce, a great high quality of life, good schools, metro accessible jobs. So it's a great place to live and to work, and employers have recognized that and are moving to Arlington or expanding in Arlington.
And I think another one is Ave Point.
Yes, Ave Point is a second employer among many who have decided to expand and just really acknowledge the fact that the community is a quality community. So I can only emphasize how important it is to have very good public schools. That's always mentioned as one of the top three factors in attracting employers to a jurisdiction.
Well, talk to us a little bit about the public schools, especially the funding in the current budget.
Well, the governor was really very generous with his public school budget. As the budgets have gone through the process, we're not done yet. There will be a 2% pay increase for teachers. There will be a large amount of money that will be unallocated in a way that's outside of the traditional formula, because our Northern Virginia communities, as you might know, don't fare so well in the
local composite index.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's important that they get more grant dollars that are targeted to children with special needs or English as second language students, because they have a growing population, especially with the English as second language students. And they have just as many challenges as other school systems, but because of the local ability to raise revenue, they don't get a adequate share from the state. So, there are some programs that are going to try to, the composite index, the cost of competing for support personnel in the public schools was addressed in the governor's budget. The contribution to the Virginia retirement system was addressed in a way where local governments will find it a little bit easier over the next biennium to make the payments, have the state make the payments, and keep the Virginia retirement system whole. There'll be opportunities to reduce class size, and there'll be opportunities, like I said, for the 2% increase in teacher salaries. So I think Governor McAuliffe really did come out with a strong blueprint, and the House and Senate bodies both re-emphasized the importance of a good, strong K-12 public education system.
What about the new paradigm shift that he has mentioned in terms of dual enrollment of high school students in community colleges or institutions of higher learning?
Yes, we passed a redesign program for our high schools. So students, if they wish, will be able to get a trade degree or a certificate in a certain trade while they're in high school. So it will enable students who know they want to be an electrician or a plumber or a mechanic, and they have skills in that area and want to pursue that, we think that this would be a wonderful opportunity for them. We don't want to lose those students. Some of them drop out. Some of them, just don't want to continue school in the traditional pattern, but they have so much to offer, and they really do want to create a good life for themselves, and they want to contribute. So this redesign of the public high school is addressing a need, a workforce need that's out there, and it's helping a really important cohort of our high school students. I continue to get money from my dual degree program, which will allow high school students who choose to also take associate degree level courses while they're in high school to pursue that track, so they could graduate with a high school diploma and a dual degree, which would be an associate degree at the same time. That makes college more affordable. It removes a huge barrier that many students have going on for a 4-year degree. So I'm excited that that program is continuing to flourish. I also got money in the budget to train mothers who are receiving temporary assistance to needy families. So these are folks who are getting some form of public assistance, and I got money so they can take classes at a community college and go into a educational or training program that will enable them to get jobs. So I think that was a really good plus. I also focused a lot on foster youth. It's always been a passion of mine, and I'm hoping that the budget conferees will agree to participate in a federal program which will enable our young people who age out of foster care at the age of 18 to continue to receive foster payments until the age of 21, as long as they're willing to go on with their education or go into a job training program. This would make a world of difference for these kids. They don't have a safety net under them. They're at a point in their lives where they can make so many positive choices and invest in themselves, and this program would really help them. I've had bipartisan support. The Family Foundation supports that. We've had a lot of support from the faith community, Department of Social Services, everybody. So we've been, actually the law enforcement community has said this would make a big difference, because our foster youth, if they don't have that safety net and they age out, they become homeless or, get into substance abuse. It's just such a costly effort to turn things around when they go down those bad paths. And it's through no fault of their own. So I'm really excited about that program. I have another bill in which has got bipartisan support. It's kinship assistance, so it would help relatives who choose to take in a relative who is in foster care, as long as the relative is willing to go through the training and accept a permanency agreement. Then we will be able to provide some foster payments to them, which we haven't done before. That would be a big step forward. I've done a lot in the area of domestic violence, and actually this is an area where the governor has made considerable strides. He entered a bipartisan agreement and was able to come up with a deal where the NRA at least was tacitly supportive. So some bills have passed that will extend protections for those under protective orders in exchange for this sort of reversing the Attorney General's sort of ban on reciprocity if states didn't meet our requirements. So I think it was a very tough call, and I think, I would have liked a better deal, and I certainly don't think this is perfect, but we have made some progress. And I have to say that I was able to work with Delegate Gilbert, who's a Republican, and hoping that my bill will pass both House and Senate, which is also a bill that he introduced, which will, if an individual violates a protective order, any protective order, and has a firearm or dangerous weapon on his person, then he would be subject to a Class 6 felony, which is a very serious, felony, and you wouldn't get your firearm returned. So I feel really good about that. I mean, it's going to make a difference. A lot of people are going to be a lot safer because we're going to take steps now to take guns away from those who are under a protective order and they violate that protective order. One of my disappointments is I put in a bill to reform the juvenile justice system. It was too much reform, so I'll have to, have to come back at it. It was very disappointing. I was trying to limit solitary confinement for young people in our detention centers, advocate for more mental health services and more of an individual approach to the rehabilitative model that we should embrace when an individual is in a detention center and is a juvenile. So I'll have to go back at it. It was very disappointing, but sometimes that's the way things go.
Talk to us a little bit about, I think there was another disappointment that had to do with Medicaid. That was taken out of the budget almost immediately.
Yes, this Medicaid expansion, it continues to just amaze some of us as to why our lawmaker friends would be willing to say to their constituents, you know, it's okay to wait 6 months to have access to care. It's okay to not go to a doctor when you're sick. You know, this Medicaid expansion is really a very generous program on the part of the federal government. And, you know, the federal government has extended its ability to pay 100% of the cost of the expansion. And the category of people eligible for the expansion are the working poor. They're individuals who are working. They simply can't afford to go to a doctor, and they wait until their condition's quite severe. They have to take time off from work, and then they go to an emergency room. The cost of care is very high. They don't get the best outcomes because they waited too long. You and I are paying for it because the cost is shifted to those who have insurance. It's costing the hospitals an incredible amount of money. And we've already had one hospital close in Lee County because the state did not participate in Medicaid expansion. It's, you know, we're sending $5 million a day from the state. Virginians in the state are paying $5 million a day in federal taxes that are going to expand Medicaid in 31 other states, including many southern states. So we don't get it. You know, we were having a debate on the floor of the Senate about the coal tax credit, extending the coal tax credit. And, you know, that's really a dying industry. It just doesn't have a future. And yet the same part of the state, if they participate, if we participated in Medicaid expansion, we'd get 30,000 jobs. It would be an infusion of $2 billion a year into our economy in Virginia. And we'd be able to save $157 million in our current budget, which we could reallocate to, you know, many other things. People talk about economic development. We're spending money on economic development incentives. If we participated in Medicaid expansion, it would take care of all the economic development incentives we had to fund. So, you know, we're hoping that we can get beyond this fear of Obamacare and this politicalization of the Medicaid expansion program. It's about helping people. It's about, you know, reducing the number of uninsured. It's about stabilizing our families. And, you know, we need to participate. This race to the bottom is not good.
Right.
And I'm hoping one day we can get away from that.
Where are we in terms of early childhood education?
Well, you know, there's a lot of support for that, and I think the debate is whether we would fund a public model or a private model or maybe a combination of both. And I think there's some interest in funding, you know, a combination of both public and private opportunities for early childhood education. There's an emphasis on improving the quality, and there's an emphasis on making it more affordable. The federal government has come out with pretty rigorous regulations stating that the children who are getting child care subsidies, which they're getting on a federal dime, which flows through the state, these kids have to receive certain, they have to have a quality education in the preschool that they're attending, and there's certain qualifications. Teachers have to be, you know, certified. There have to be, you know, background checks. So the federal government has stepped up and said, you know, so our kids who are getting federal money have to have access to quality programs. So you sort of see the flip side. Sometimes it's the lower income kids who are not getting access to quality programs, and now we're going to try to bring everybody else up to what the kids on the child subsidized program will be getting. So, the investment's worth it. You know, there have been studies done. The federal government studied early Head Start. They studied the Head Start program longitudinally. Children who are from those low-income backgrounds do not have as many opportunities for enrichment. When they go to a Head Start program, they are 70% more likely to graduate from high school and go on with their education. So it's a huge, huge benefit and an investment that is so worthwhile. We're hoping to make some progress on that.
And that's also very important in terms of ensuring that those children and all children are able to read at the third grade level when they get there.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. That seems to be our benchmark. Children who are struggling with reading by the third grade are really going to struggle their entire career and are much more likely to drop out of school. So, but we've seen significant improvements with our populations that have gone through Head Start. They're able to be at the grade level, reading and doing other academic skills as they should be doing at the third grade level, which is really important.
Now, what about this move to, in essence, take away from local school districts the authority to determine whether a charter school will be created?
Oh, well, you know, you get a lot of brochure-type bills up here, and I know there's a group out there, certainly in many political circles, that really value charter schools and think charter schools are the answer. And there is nothing unique about charter schools. What people want are high-quality choices, and you can have your public school provide those choices. But to try to pass a constitutional amendment which would allow the state to grant a license to a charter school and then take the money from a local school community to fund a charter school is just ridiculous. You know, there's 6 charter schools in the state. 2 of them are in my district. I represent portions of Loudoun, and 2 of them are in Loudoun. And the way that the first charter school made it was they actually got full funding from the public school.
Oh, is that right?
The public school system, yeah. So, and they are meeting the requirements that the public school system has established. The teachers have to be credentialed. The teachers have to have a certain amount of experience. They have to meet the SOLs. So, you know, so there's a lot of public control over that. Charter school has, well, there should be, because public dollars are going to the charter school. And what we really have to ensure is that the charter schools are willing to educate every child who walks through the door, which is what our public schools have to do. And in this particular case, the charter school had to accept all the children who were attending a public elementary school that closed down. So we sort of got to that point, but but there's some struggles. I mean, you can't just have public money be siphoned off to a private entity without controls and accountability and without the expectation that every child is worthy of an education and any child who walks through the door should be educated.
2 other education-related matters that were debated again this session, you've been around long enough to have been a participant in that, is the ability of a homeschooled child to participate in athletics, and then the school calendar, who controls the school calendar.
Yeah, those issues come up, the Tebow bill, you know. Children who are homeschooled can certainly participate in these community athletic events, but to, you know, say that they should have access to all the academic benefits that are provided in a public arena just doesn't seem to fit the rules of the game. And there were lots of debates over that. Now this year the bill softened a little bit because it gave public schools the option of allowing homeschool children to participate in the athletic sports. So they probably could have tacked on fees if they needed to, or some other things, as opposed to mandating that a public school shall accept all the homeschoolers. So this year's bill was a little less offensive than some of the past bills have been. You know, we're trying to make the system work for everybody, but it's really it's a challenge sometimes. And your second question was
related to the school calendar and who determines.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the King Dominion
Yes, yes.
bill. Well, I'm certainly in the corner where I think local school boards should be able to decide the school calendar. But it is a debate that's always very robust here in the General Assembly. Many lawmakers feel that school boards would decide to start too early in the summer, rather than Labor Day. They'd start before Labor Day, and that would take away the workforce. A lot of high school students work at these entertainment parks, and folks don't want, the kids back at school. I don't think that's a real problem. 2/3 of the school systems have waivers. I think local school boards are aware of the economic impacts associated with their decisions, and I am for local control.
Electrical transmission lines, that's an issue
Yes.
near and dear to your heart.
It's near and dear to my heart. I actually got a bill through that would require the State Corporation Commission to hold a public hearing in the area where an electrical transmission line is being proposed.
That seems like common sense.
It is, and they are doing that to some degree, but my bill will require them to do it when the Board of Supervisors requests it. So I think that's great. Again, part of my district is Loudon, and they're getting transmission lines all the time, and folks really want to understand what's going on, where they're going to be, what the benefits will be, and just try to minimize the impact if possible. So.
We were talking about certifications early on, especially in terms of dual enrollments, but our junior colleges provide that opportunity now, and I assume you have a lot of veterans who are returning from theaters of war, a lot of youngsters now who have garnered experience in certain areas, and I understand that they're able now to some extent to get credits based upon the experience that they have garnered overseas.
Yes. Last year we passed a bill, and it was I was very proud to support it, and it actually directed the colleges and universities to come up with policies for accepting college credit for actually being a soldier, not just for the training that they may have received, because that was always sort of on the books and transferable, but just for the act that they were a soldier, and you exercise leadership and judgment, and I would say a lot of cognitive thinking in there, and certainly maturity, and I think that those values and characteristics are something that we should be able to translate into college credit. So we're working on that. I don't know if the universities have completed their work, but it's the right thing to do. And fortunately, the Veterans Administration is actually encouraging universities to create veteran centers on their campuses to offer holistic approaches to their veterans when they come on campus. It's a very different environment for them. They're older students, they have different needs, different issues. A lot of them have post-traumatic stress syndrome. College is a different combination of stresses. So I think there's a real public acknowledgement that we have to do what we can to help our veterans start their lives again.
And I understand that there are 2 new service centers that are funded in the budget, one in Northern Virginia and one in Hampton Roads.
Yes, and I'm just really delighted about that. Veterans have so much to offer, and it's really our obligation to enable them to share their gifts and to contribute now in society. They had to put their lives on hold when they went off to serve us and serve the country. So I am very much a fan of these veteran centers. And again, I think we're trying to do state-of-the-art services for them and look at the whole picture and help their families.
Great. Significant compromise on I-66 inside the Beltway this year.
Yeah, yes, and I think we've made great progress. Again, the governor was a key player in that. So the deal is that there will be an additional lane added inside the Beltway from where the Dulles Toll Road sort of connects, and the Dulles Toll Road and 495 up to Boston, the Boston exit. I think it's Fairfax Drive. And we really do, that'll help. That lane will be heading east, so it will relieve some congestion. There will be, if you are in a two-person carpool now, you're fine, but if you're in a one-person carpool, starting 2017, you will be paying a toll, and it'll be based on, you know, the
This is the
congestion.
dynamic pricing
Dynamic
like we
pricing.
have now. Yes.
Right,
Yes.
that's what I was looking for. But if you're in a three-person carpool come 2020, you won't have to pay a toll. So, so we are sort of encouraging folks to carpool.
Yes, we are. Yes,
We
we
have
are.
to see how it's going to work.
Now, this is one of these. This is going to be done pursuant to a public-private partnership.
Yes, yes. Now, the lane will be added within the current public right-of-way. So we will not have to acquire any additional
Okay.
property. They may have to slightly narrow the two lanes that are there, but there is enough property to do this third lane. You know, there'll be sound walls, and I'm sure lots of meetings with the public to hammer out the design elements. So it's progress. I mean, I-66 was one of the most congested roads in the country, and you know, we have a large population now in Northern Virginia. It's at least 2.5 million. And probably more, depending on how you define Northern Virginia. And folks are going everywhere. There are job centers everywhere. There are entertainment centers
Sure.
everywhere. People are living everywhere, so they want to be able to commute intra-regionally conveniently.
So, how have your constituents reacted just to the concept of tolling?
Well, you know, I think many have seen the light. You know, nobody likes to pay tolls, but I think people understand that we need changes. We need to make some improvements. And, you know, folks who are really environmentally oriented are okay with it because they feel, oh, well, good, it'll be a deterrent to single drivers, you know. And folks who, you know, folks who are not warming up to it, I hope will warm up to it because it'll be worth their while.
Right.
So we'll have to see, but the deal was, you know, the first deal was maybe we were going to wait and build the road after the tolling model went into effect. And we had certain triggers in place to kick off but we decided you can't really charge tolls without adding more capacity. And I think that was the right decision. So
Good, good. Well, it's great to have you here, Senator Barbara Favola. Keep up the good work. We've got
Thank you.
about a week left.
Thank you. Yes, about a week left.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans.